All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Akakwadash. Double honor to the apostles, the elders, the great millstone who were well, and peace and salutations to those for elect. I'm the brother Yeshua. I just want to get into a quick topic through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. Yahweh being the Most High, who the word really calls God, through his only begotten Son, who the word really calls Jesus Christ, two so-called black men. And topic of this lesson is, you got the this world's, the nations, the kings of this world, all right, starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the Edomites that the Bible speaks of, as well as, the kings of these other nations, the Chinese being Moab, according to the Bible, Ammon being the Japanese, according to the Bible, Ham being the so-called Africans, according to the Bible, Ishmael being the Arabs, Elam being the East Indians, all right, and the Persians from, Iran, the Iranians, and so on and so forth. And, it's a fight. The stage is set, and all these kingdoms, especially the so-called white man, he has rulership of the earth right now, according to Job 9:24. The earth was given into his hands, all right, but he wants complete control. And these other nations, they fighting to be a superpower, They in their mind, they thinking they got next, They thinking that once they take the white man down, all right, chiefly like kingdoms like China, they setting up plays for the next 100 years and so on and so forth, right? But contrary to popular belief, the Lord's chosen got next, all right? Israel, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, the Lord's chosen people, all right? The Israelites, according to the Bible. And it's like, what's all the fuss about? You heathens, all the political, the politics, the back and forth, nuclear arms race, buying up certain parts of the world, as far as China doing business in the South America and all throughout Europe, and making these alliances, the BRICS nations. Then you got NATO and the EU. But the Lord is going to stomp all that out very soon by the coming of his only begotten Son, all right, Yahweh Shah, and to, subdue these kingdoms, all right, and lift up his people, starting with the elect, the 144,000, the Israelites. So let me get this first scripture and I'll continue on. This is Psalms 2 and verse 1, going into the topic, and it reads, "Why do the heathen rage?" And then when you go to the blue letter, one of the definitions, I just looked it up. Who's the heathen? Like I said, every nation outside of the nation of Israel. It says to be in tumult or commotion, to conspire. You see that? They conspire. Let's look that up. Make secret plans jointly to commit an unlawful or harmful act. They plotting, all right? They plotting to be the next superpower. And ultimately, their main plot, starting with the ultimate kings of the earth. Hold on, let me read this. A plan made in secret by a group of people to do illegal or harmful. Yeah, when you go to, that remind me of Psalm 64. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. All right, who's the secret counsel of the wicked? The elites, the Illuminati. All right, Esau, Edom, chiefly. All right, starting with the international banking families, starting with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Warburgs, the DuPonts, the Gettys, and so on and so forth. So they're plotting, as well as the heathen, in the UN meetings, you know, plotting against the Lord's people, the Israelites, how to keep them down, how to keep them oppressed, how to keep them in a lower state, you know. So it says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? That vain thing is them thinking they're going to rule for the next 100 years. They're going to be the next superpowers. You know, that's a vain thing. That's an empty thought. Because the Lord set a bound. Let me get that. Starting with the so-called white man. And I'm just flowing through the spirit. This is Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined. Whose days? Esau, Edom, as well as the other nations. Their days are determined. The number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So it's a certain cutoff point for this man's rulership. All right? Esau is the end of the world, which is the end of an age. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. I tell you that in 2nd Esdras 6, around the 7th verse. All right? So the Lord set a boundary that he cannot pass, a time limit. He got a cutoff point. You know? The joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. You know? So let's go back. And the people imagine a vain thing. It says the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together. Like I was going into them UN meetings. All right? You got the BRICS nations coming together, NATO, EU, all right, Amalek over there in Israel, joint with America, all right, the whole that sitteth upon the beast, you know, they join themselves together, and the rulers take counsel together. Like I said, it said they plot, they rage against the Lord. You see that? Against the Lord, Yahweh, all right, the Most High, Bahashim, through his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shah, and against his anointed, his people, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. That's the point I wanted to get. He that sitteth in the heavens, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, shall laugh. Because what? Let me see. Let me get this. Why the Lord is laughing? Why he gonna laugh? Slakia. King's heart. Bear with me, Salakia. This is Proverbs 21 and verse 1. The king's heart. You was talking about the kings going into the kings of the earth. All right. We were just reading that in Psalms. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. All right. The Lord is controlling this. All right. The Lord ruleth in the kingdom of men. And he set up the bases of men. He set up who he will. You know? So the Lord is looking at these heathens like, you fools. You know? You got a cutoff point. You're done. You know? You're doing all this towards my people, and in the end, it's gonna be a trap unto you. It's gonna be a snare unto you. You know? It says the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whatsoever he will, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Scriptures talk about how he hardened the heart of Pharaoh. All right, Esau, Edom is the modern day Pharaoh. You know, so in the scriptures tell you that pride go before fall. So the Lord is working on both sides of the spectrum. All right, he controls the left hand and the right hand. All right, he's called you to fall into your own demise, Esau, Edom, as well as you other nations, because of your pride. You know. And get this. And this is for the collective of all these heathen. This is Proverbs 16:25. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. All right? So the end all be all for these heathens, first and foremost, is slavery. All right? Going into captivity, you know? And ultimately for the Edomites is to be done away with. But on this side, if you on the shores of America, Babylon, the great, that's known in the scriptures, all right, and you a heathen, and the missiles fly off, you through, all right? The end thereof is the ways of death, you know? And then you're going to have, the elites, starting with the international bankers in them underground bunkers, because they not going to feel that destruction. That's going to be our first, they first stop us into slavery, you know? They gon' be up in the in them underground bunkers. So let me read that again. There's a way that seemeth right unto the man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So let's jump back to Psalms 2. It says, he that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Yep. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath. How he gonna speak unto them in his wrath? The missiles, that indignation. All right? The Lord's anger. That's how he's gonna appease his wrath. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. Because the Lord is not pleased with you, with you heathens. All right? Especially the so-called white man. Y'all do everything contrary to the Bible. All right? Y'all legalize homosexuality. Y'all charge usury. All right? Y'all decree unrighteous decrees. You know? And so on and so forth. Y'all oppress the Lord's people, man. The apple of his eye. Y'all have set my king upon my holy hill. Who's the ultimate king? All right? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Yahweh Shah is the king of kings. All right? And King David under him. And it trickled down to the rest of the 12 and 144,000. Upon my holy hill, Zion. All right? I would declare the decree, the Lord Yahweh have said unto me, thou art my son, this day I have begotten thee, going into Yahweh Shah. All right? He's the ultimate, he's the only begotten of Yahweh, of Yahweh. All right, that's the only spirit Yahweh created, and then Yahweh Shah created all other spirits that you see. All right? It says, this day I would declare the decree, the Lord have said unto me. Shalaki, I'm going to read it again. I will declare the decree, the Lord have said unto me, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. Yep. So you other nations, all right, get it in your head. All right, you're our property. All right. And the Lord said, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. And look, let me get a scripture to back that, proving that this is Yahweh Shah, because he's going to say it. This is Revelation 2 and verse, I start at 25. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. What do we got? This wisdom, knowledge, and this truth, this understanding. The wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. The faith, the belief. All right? But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh, all right, overcome what? The hell that we catching, overcome Jacob's trouble, overcome that MOTB, the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip, which is written about in Revelation 13 and 16, which is the trial of our faith, the ultimate test. All right? It says that he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end. So to keepeth is the God. We got to protect this truth. All right? We got to push the right doctrine to the end. All right? And that word goes into terios, to means the God, to keep. All right? and keepeth my works defensive. You know, we gotta defend the gospel, and keepeth my works unto the end. To him will I give power over the nations. All right, the heathen, like they said, they gonna be our property. All right. He shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my father. All right. What did the Lord receive of his father? Let me get that slack here. It says, ask of me, Psalms 2:8, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. All right. So this is what Yahweh shall receive. And Yahweh shall said we going to receive it if we keep his works unto the end. Scriptures talk about us being joint heirs. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. All right. I ended at 12. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve Yahweh by Shem Yahushua with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry. Do the work. All right? Neglect not the gift that's in you, lest the Lord be angry. You got to do this. You got to push this truth to the best of your ability. And ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little. All right? Blessed are they that put their trust in him. Yeah, we banking on Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. Everything else is secondary. So you heathen, man, you don't need to spectate who got next. All right? Israel got next. The true Israelites, you so-called blacks, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the Israelite foreigners that's sprinkled amongst the nations that the Lord is going to gather. All right? So with that, shalom to the whole for elect.